Crossroads. That was one of your original screenplays. I should say it's all our original screenplays. It's one of your first.
Mhm.
And Pete and I were just throwing the ball back and forth and thinking, it's been a while. And if that movie was brought in today to do somewhat just on a thought experiment, a hypothetical remake. In the original, Steve Vai is the man who is the devil's right-hand man.
Plays Jack Butler.
Yep, Jack Butler.
Who's today's Jack Butler? In your mind, John, who would that be? Or who are some of the characters who might be a good Jack Butler?
Well, it's a really good question, guys. And I think that if we were to reimagine it today, I'd have to go back to my very original script, which I'm really proud and honored to say is in the Blues Archives at the University of Mississippi. And I bring that up because one of the curators there read it and was very surprised about how different from the movie it was. I mean, at its core, it's this relationship story, and but there was tonally, it was quite a bit different. I really strived for a dual reality. There was not the sky didn't open up and you weren't transformed to a metaphysical plane. For this duel, it was, Willie Brown took him to an old railhead in Clarksdale for cutting heads. And it was sort of an underground, like a fight club with bluesmen. They'd have cutting head cook-offs, and so it was all approached from a dual reality. Like, is this just like a cutting heads, or is that to Willie Brown? It was the devil. We've got to beat him. We actually had Shuggie Otis in the first cut, and then we cut him because he's African American, and we had him being beaten by Lightning Boy, and then Lightning Boy takes out Steve Vai, who's a white guy. I think that all of us non-African American blues musicians owe a massive debt of gratitude, to the Black blues and where this comes from. And so I think that in the first and foremost in reimagining, we'd have to really go back to my first script, which really honored that more. And I think that would be essential. Who knows what the outcome would be in that, or maybe the Lightning Boy is African American, but I think we have to really, really dig down deep into that and look at what that equation would be and how it would play out. But we've got Gary Clark Jr. and Kingfish,
I could definitely see Kingfish in a Crossroads reboot.
Yeah. Get Kingfish on the road, and I think that's how that would be the right twist on it. And although, hey, Ralph is having great success with Cobra Kai.
That's a great show. That's one of my favorite shows right now.
I'm so happy for that kid. I still call him a kid. He worked so hard on his guitar stuff, his blues stuff, and he really had such a love for it. And he went on that journey of the making of the film with me, and where we had this dream job of driving around with Ry Cooder and Juke Logan and Arlen Roth and heading into the last of the authentic juke joints across swamps and fish fries. And I was, doing what I had done when I wrote the movie. We were like going to look for these obscure guys who might have been missed, interviewing, asking. So it was kind of like an Alan Lomax type of situation. And all roads led to a guy named Frank Otis Frost. Frank Frost and the Juke Joint Jumpers, who appear in that film, and we found them in a little juke house. And so Ralph was a part of that and did great. But yeah, now you got me excited about thinking about rebooting it that way.
Let's talk about the guitar duel a little bit more. Before this interview, I went back and watched it on YouTube. That guitar duel video has 33 million views on YouTube. John, what does it mean to you when you see the impact that scene still has on people?
You know, I love, despite the fact that it's different from the script, and that I felt that my take was a little more purist as a blues musician. The fact that it's become a cult film and that is beloved by most blues aficionados, and as I said, it kind of introduced a new generation of musicians to the blues, and I think that duel being so popular, when you bring it up and you bring up the movie, people are like, oh yeah, the duel with the devil, and you know, and Jack Butler, and how about cutting heads, and a lot of players out there know that duel now, and that it's incredibly meaningful. I was asked recently during a film magazine interview about the Western stuff I've done, and like Young Guns and Hidalgo and the Highwaymen even, and they said, so what is your, out of everything you've written, what's your personal favorite gunfight that you wrote? And I said, the duel in Crossroads. and and that's something that I think that Walter Hill, who directed the movie and who I bumped heads with quite a bit on that, but as I was 24 and just off the road, and he was a legendary Sam Peckinpah type director who knew his Western motif and the machismo. And he was very key in calibrating that duel and bringing out the tension like a gunfight. Well, you know, when you asked about the duel at the Crossroads, something popped into my mind that people are always surprised to hear. And that is when we were casting the role of Jack Butler. You know, Rye had called me and he said, okay, so the script has gone out. I got it out to different guitar players, and here's who wants to do the role. Jimmy Page, Keith Richards,
Never heard of him.
Johnny Winter, and Frank Zappa.
Pretty much everybody.
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah. So, but those were the guys that were on the short list. And then he said Steve Vai, and I was like, and Steve Vai was like, to me, that was like, well, he's the least known of them. Amazing, but we could have Johnny Winter up there, you know, with his tattoos, his, you know, the devil's right hand man, and they all came in, they all met, and my head was spinning. I was just like, man, how, you can't lose here. But Rye wisely pushed for Steve, and he said, because Steve, he's killer. He's a shredder, and he's got a diabolical quality, you know, physically and in his sound. When he plays, he can like channel some supernatural stuff. And he's not so recognizable that you don't say, oh, I'm watching Jimmy Page.
Right.
I'm watching Frank Zappa. So it was the right choice. But that always tends to surprise people, and then they sit back and they go, let me imagine it with Keith Richards.